guys, Caleb here, back again with more Red Knot, and this time we have A Carpet of Purple Flowers by Tracy Ann McCartney. A different kind of romance, or so it promises. I don't like romance books. I think I've talked about this before, but when I see romance anything, I turn around and run far, far away. But I don't know, maybe this will be alright. So the cover, I like it, but it doesn't really... There's kind of these, like, purpley flowers in the background. Doesn't really look like there's a whole bunch of them, so the carpet part of the title is sort of a lie in regards to the cover. But there's, like, some stems with leaves, and it's all, like, this purpley and... I mean, not really a purpley blue exactly. I mean, it's more like just a strict tone of purple. Like lighter purple and darker purple. And it's not really leaning to red violet or blue violet. So, the other thing is there's like all these little dots that I guess are supposed to be stars and pollen. And then here in the like lower half of the book, I'm guessing a magic circle or something. Electricity stuff going on in here with some like pink and blue and white, and I guess what's supposed to be like, it's not exactly a pentagram, it's a little off of a pentagram and has a few extra spikes. So I like the cover. I think it's okay, but for any kind of book, I think I'd like something more eye-catching. This doesn't really catch my eye, with the exception of this big star thing in the middle. The rest of this cover is just bleh to me, but at least they are purple flowers, not necessarily a carpet of them, which would imply many, but there are purple flowers. To the back, every unknown is a beginning. Bee lives a simple life, working and living in a second-hand bookshop. It had been a difficult year. First was her uncle dying. I'm sorry. Then splitting up with Brandon, her philanthroping, druggy boyfriend. Yeah, I can understand why you'd break up with him. I don't know what philanthroping means, except that I can't pronounce it. I guess it's like philanthropy... Where people are good out of the goodness of their hearts to mankind because they generally believe mankind is good and that they should help people who need help. And I guess he's preying upon people like that. People's goodwill, I suppose. The shop's daily conversations, local faces, and ordinary calm were all she desired. But that was all about to change, because we wouldn't have a book otherwise. No one expects to bump into supernatural beings, let alone to opposing sects of a forgotten race. Bee's quiet existence spins into turmoil as she unravels a secret past, a lost history in which love, revenge, betrayal, magic, power, and karma are not mere cycles of a soul, but a sacred journey upon a web of many possibilities. Usually you just want to put like 3 of those things in a row, but maybe that's just me. It just makes your sentence sound clunky to me. The future is not set in stone, and the choices that Bee makes ripple through the cosmos. As her story unfolds, Bee realizes, with no Z, so I guess this is Britishy-ish, that no matter what form your soul takes, there are consequences for your actions, in which time has no relevance. We call it karma. They call it vorobala. What? Vor or bal. Blah. Yeah, that's going to be a word I'm just going to probably start calling Volt Orb or something like that, because I'm like, I have no idea how I'm supposed to say that. Also, you already talked about karma. You should have just left that out in your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spiel. Just drop some of these. You can just put betrayal, revenge, and power. You can have power with magic, and karma is a thing, as you said. It's just like, well, whatever you do comes back to you tenfold or more. Will she cope with the heartbreak and truths revealed before her? What would you do if your very existence came into question? Pray? Being a religious person, I would pray. Join B on her journey as she uncovers the truth of her past, walking a carpet of purple flowers. What kind of a sentence is that? Join B on her journey as she uncovers the truth of her past, walking a carpet of purple flowers. I think there's a better way you could phrase that to include your title name, because that just doesn't really make sense. Like, I understand what you're trying to say, but it doesn't work. So you probably want to change that to something like, join her as she journeys to uncover the truth by walking on a carpet of purple flowers. You need to put another word or two in there. Oh, that's cool. You open it up and there's like little stars all over the page. I like that. I do like the font for the title. Acknowledgements. Oh, what's this? Lithorazia? Sheed symbols. Oh, is this dealing with Celtic myth? Sheed. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right. I think it's supposed to be pronounced Sheed. Sidhe. Well, maybe that weird star thing is part of it, but I haven't really studied Celtic mythology all that much. Okay, so apparently we have, I guess what she's calling glyphs. We have A to Z, weird looking symbols, and then from 0 to 9, weird looking symbols. And then there's a little note down here. Note, glyphs are designed to be written vertically from right to left. So like Japanese? Oh, the chapter title is written in the nice font, and it's got stars all around it. That's cool. Oh, but that's weird. Okay, in most books, most novels, you will see that each page of the book has the title of the book on the pages. They will be at the top in the center of the page, on every page. And then the number is usually either centered at the bottom or to the right and left, depending on which page you're looking at, of the bottom. This has both the title and number to the left at the bottom. That's a little strange. I mean, you could do it like that, I suppose, but that's weird. Which why they include the title on every page, I don't know. Because it's not like I'm going to forget what book it is I'm reading when I pick it up every time to start reading. But anyway, here we go. Chapter 1. Leave the past where it belongs. Walls and shutters were scrawled with neon graffiti that blinded every time. What? That blinded every time a car sped past. How does the neon graffiti blind you? I would like an explanation of this, please. Bea averted her eyes from the glare and heard a cab driver screaming at a drunk for throwing a beer can too close to his car. Big whoop-de-doo. She watched it roll, rattling across the road until disappearing into a pile of litter that lay by an overturned bin. This sounds like a shit part of town. I don't know if you want to be here. She rested her head against the frame of the bare window above the Victorian bookshop. Victorian as in that's its name, or Victorian in the style of building that it is? Here nothing surprised her. It was to be expected, living in one of the worst parts of South London. Perhaps that's why she never truly felt like it was home. She wanted nothing more than to go to bed, crawl under the covers, and settle down for the night with a mug of sweet tea. Okay, I have to say this because being a Southern person. Sweet tea as in tea with sugar in it, or sweet tea as a Southerner would understand sweet tea, and like some lemon in it. And a good book, consolation for being stupid, too ready to please, as usual. The good book and sweet tea you wanted were consolation for being stupid and ready to please? I'm a little confused at the wording of your book. I mean, after reading it and thinking about it for a minute, I get it, but then I get confused as to what these things are supposed to mean. So what you mean in this incredibly long sentence that should be 2 sentences is that yes, you want to go back to bed and have some tea and read a book, which is cool, but you can't because you did something that was stupid and because you were too ready to please somebody else instead of thinking about your own shit. That's what you want to say, but instead the sentence is clunky. All day she'd mentally tormented herself for agreeing to attend Leanne's party, and now it was too late to cancel. It's never too late. You can just be like, I'm not coming. Well, why not? Because I'm not coming. Bye. She didn't want to see Brandon, her ex. Okay, then when you call and say, hey, I'm not coming to the party, why? Because my ex is going to be there and he's a douche. I don't want to interact with him. Okay, you want to do something later, like tomorrow or something? Sure, as long as he's not invited. Okay. The man she had successfully avoided for 6 months. Damn him. Of course he'll show up. After all, he's the birthday girl's brother. Couldn't you just call her and say, hey, happy birthday, I'm not going to come see you because, I don't want to talk to your brother. B-side, and the closeness of all her warm breath on the cold glass caused an area of the window to mist up. She ran her slender finger over the damp blur of condensation, producing a squeaking sound as she casually drew a large question mark. I would have drawn a smiley face, but okay. Bea stared at it for a moment before rubbing it away with the palm of her hand. Her feet then slowly carried her down the hall to her bedroom, where she sat down on the bed, deflated. She looked down at her clothes with a raised brow, unimpressed. And then this is where we start a new paragraph, because we're describing her clothes now, after she did an action. As always, she found herself in a familiar safe zone. Old River Island jeans, a gold jumper and flats. Comfort every time. Bea couldn't help but laugh at herself. Predictable me. I don't need the inner monologue. I know she's thinking about herself. She shrugged and reached for her cup, ready to gulp down the last dregs of remaining tea, when the mobile phone rang. The sound caused a rise of silent panic, which had originated from the bad feeling that okay, a thing with apostrophes. Now, granted, I'm not saying it's improper to write this way, but I was taught differently. Grammar rules change all the time in the English language. Whether you're American, Canadian, English, words and grammar change. In the narration, she says, which had originated from the bad feeling that stirred in the pit of her stomach all day. You should never, as I have been taught, use apostrophed words in narration. If someone is speaking or thinking to themselves, that's okay because we think like that, we talk like that. But it can make your narration weird and clunky, especially considering that it's that. Like, look at how much trouble I had saying, feeling that stirred. Just put that had. It wouldn't be that difficult to just write out had instead of tacked apostrophe D onto that word. Now again, grammar rules change, and I'm not exactly a grammar expert, but that's what I was taught. You don't do that. You spell everything out. The feeling could be wrong, though, couldn't it? She tried to logically rationalize the sick churning inside, convincing herself it was just dread. Well, yes, I understand this is what she's trying to do. We didn't need the rest of that sentence. It would have sufficed to say, she tried to logically rationalize the sick churning inside, comma, to convince herself it was just dread, instead of saying she managed to convince herself that it was dread. Or you could just leave that by itself and just keep going with the paragraph instead of having that entire line anyway. Dread of him showing up, dread of yet another argument, dread of the past pain hitting her all at once. The words of her uncle sounded out in her mind. Leave the past where it belongs, in the past. She took a deep breath and answered the call. Hi, Lisa. I'm glad you told us that it was her calling and that you freaked out and it turns out it's just somebody else calling you to be like, hey, what up, yo? You ready? I'm outside. Oh, and the girls are with me. No, you're not ready. Your clothes are on the bed. You aren't dressed yet. And if you are magically dressed, I'm going to have to sit down with you and talk about why you need to actually say, hey, I got dressed, even though I'm monologuing to myself. Ready as I'll ever be. Coming. Bee gave herself a quick squirt of Isley Miyake. I think that maybe Miyake. Isley Miyake. Or easily Miyake. I don't know. On the way out of the room. But you didn't get dressed yet. You didn't dress in your good clothes. You've just been monologuing to yourself. The butt passed before running down the stairs. When was the last time I wore perfume? I mean, clearly you still have feelings for him if you're putting the perfume on, and then you're like, when was the last time I wore perfume? Well, gee, Sherlock. Think about it. She closed the bookshop door. Oh, so it's like where the store part is at the bottom, but the people who own and run the store live on top. Like on the second story of the building. She closed the bookshop door, pulling it hard, ensuring the cranky lock was secure before turning away. The cold chill outside made Bee rush her steps down the alley by the side of the shop, where Lizzie was waiting in her stylish new black Mini Cooper. A little too many commas being used here. We can break the sentence up a bit. Honestly, I would say 1 comma per sentence. If you're using any more than that, there's a problem. Not that you could really see it in the dark. Well, it's kind of black. Also, do I really need to know the exact model of her car? I mean, I guess that could help define the character, but is this character really going to come back into play in the book sometime later? I don't know. Might not. Except for the flecks of silver in the paintwork, gleaming proudly in the yellow streetlights. How is it a new black car if there's flecks of silver in the paint? Wouldn't that actually look kind of ugly? We didn't exactly have enough black paint, so we threw some silver in there too. Well, you look, ellipses, comfortable, Eliza remarked, half hanging out of driver window. You need a thee between the of and driver. Bee threw her a warning glare. I won't say another word. Eliza popped her head back through the window and started up the car. Or you could have just said started the car, but that is a phrase people use, started up the car. If it's just a birthday party, then what does it matter how she dresses as long as she doesn't look like she hasn't bathed in 3 weeks? Bee! A double screech of high-pitched voices came from the back seat. Hi, Claire, Roxy. Bee did her best to look happy at seeing them again, but wondered if her voice sounded strained under the weight of the lie. Why not just be like, look, guys, I really don't want to go because my ex is there. Oh, we've been so worried about you. Where have you been? Why've you stayed away? Asked Roxy. Since that's the start of a new sentence, I'm gonna say you shouldn't apostrophe use apostrophes as the first word in your sentence. Maybe since it's similar to the first question, well, I don't know. I just went about saying that if you should only use one comma in every sentence. Bea took a deep breath and gritted her teeth. Roxy knew exactly why. Busy working. You know how it is. Roxy pouted, nodding in agreement. Bea stared out of the passenger window, vexed, bored, and already feeling out of place. She twiddled with a loose strand of her dark auburn hair that escaped the simple bun on top of her head. When did she put her hair into a bun? Was it always a bun? Why are we describing her now on page 13? Everyone looked quite glamorous. Liz's long blonde hair was gracefully swept to one side, showing off her beautiful face. Bea had always wondered how Liz got her makeup looking so perfect. Years of practice, apparently. Her own technique was quite the opposite. A slap of foundation, a quick swipe of mascara, and a touch of blusher. Okay, I'm just gonna say, calling blush blusher is just weird to me. I mean, I know it can be called that, but it is strange. Maybe because I'm American? Nothing fancy requiring any skill. Roxy and Claire never ceased to amaze, Never ceased to amaze. Ceased. You know, I've never actually seen that word spelled, so I'm going to not argue with the author on this, because I wouldn't know if seized and ceased would be spelt the same way. Never ceased to amaze, with thick layers of foundation, stopping right at the chin, and eyes that displayed the biggest eyelashes ever, like, oh my god, so totally, which caused them to blink a lot. Maybe they should take some of it off if it's going to make their eyes dry, so that they have to keep blinking. Tell me what you got Leanne for her birthday. Lisa egged the girls on. How is that egging them? That wouldn't be egging them. That'd be just like, hey, tell her what you got that other girl's birthday. Okay. Claire and Roxy giggled. So you got her a naughty thing, I'm assuming? You tell. Claire nudged Roxy. No, you tell her, replied Claire. You're not going to believe it, Bea. Is she, Claire? You won't guess, Claire continued the grinding conversation. Now, see, this is where instead you'd want to say somebody egged on, because this is going back and forth and getting nowhere. Tell her, Roxy nudged Claire again. A stripper, Claire blurted. Bea's mouth dropped open. Claire and Roxy burst out laughing. What do you think, Bea? Asked Claire. I think she'll most certainly be surprised. Bea's eyes briefly met Liz's. She'll love it, cried an excited Roxy. Could have just said, hey, wait until you see what we got our friend for her birthday party. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, know what I'm saying? Because I'd certainly be surprised if Chippendale showed up at my birthday party. It's funny. It's interesting. It has no purpose in a book about a supernatural rivalry. Bea was relieved the car journey wasn't long. Shouldn't you wish it was longer instead? I don't think you should be relieved. Liza perked up and went to get the ticket, leaving Bea with Roxy and Claire, who were applying yet another thick layer of makeup. For some reason, I guess. Also, you have to get a ticket. Did you guys, rent a room or something for this party? It would have been nice to have had this information before. Bea excused herself from the confinement of the car before the perfume came out and choked her to death. I would say just roll down the window, but the driver has taken her keys with her, then that's probably not an option. Or you could just crack the door open a bit. But then again, depending on how much they spray, I mean, some perfume is kind of suffocating, especially if you have, asthma. It's not good to have, a shit ton of perfume. Lisa returned, giggling at the expression upon Bea's face. Gasping for air, Bee's eyes widened, something like that. Why would your eyes widen? 'Cause she guessed correctly? Yeah, this isn't like a dramatic scene or anything. She's just like, yeah, I don't think I want all that perfume going right up my nose. Liza tapped on the back window. Ready, ladies? Why wouldn't you just duck your head in to the open car door and be like, hey, get your asses out, let's go. Roxy and Claire threw their beauty kit, why not just say their makeup, back into their bags, climbed out of the car, and started readjusting their clothing. Give us a minute, they screeched. Bea rolled her eyes. I'm going to the shop. What shop? Thought you were going to a party. Eliza gave her that look. Nicorette? Nicorette? Like the little chewing gum shit that you take? The anti-smoker thing? Is that what that means? And please, don't be long. I guess she is going to get some cigarettes, and she's telling her to instead quit by getting Nicorette? I don't know. Nothing's explained. I'm just supposed to assume, apparently. Once out of the shop, Bee's hand frantically rummaged around in her bag trying to grab the lighter, but it refused to be found. That's usually what happens when you need to find something. It has to be in here somewhere. The girls called out, but she ignored them, too engrossed delving into the darkest depths of her bag, not looking where she was going, and suddenly came to an abrupt halt. She bumped into someone. No shit, Sherlock. Paragraph break. But it doesn't exist. Flushed, she looked up and encountered a pair of piercing, bright blue eyes staring back at her. Oh, I'm so sorry. She apologized. But the stranger's gaze did not leave her. He looked familiar. Where have I seen him before? The shop? Ellie's Bristow? Various places swept through her mind until she realized that he seemed to actually enjoy her unreserved observation. Her cheeks became warm and she averted her eyes, aware of the blush, but felt drawn back to his face. Okay, but I would still be like, sorry, and move around him and go back to my business? 'Cause, yeah, he might be a good-looking guy, I suppose. I mean, I don't know, you haven't really told me yet. He's still a stranger, and you still weren't paying attention, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't give a shit and would like you to get out of the fucking way. Why? Was it the way one corner of his mouth turned into a beautiful hypnotic grin? Please gag me with a spoon. Or perhaps due to the depth of his eyes, and how she became lost as they searched hers. Whatever it was, the silent hello sent shivers down her spine, making her whole body aware of his presence. Why would he silently tell you hello? Why wouldn't he be like, oh, that's okay. You're hot. Can I get to know you better? Assuming the main character is hot, we haven't really established anything other than she doesn't want to go to this party. Her clothing is just more about comfort rather than fashion or a look, and she's kind of down on herself. Bea! Liza cried, instantly breaking the connection with the stranger. Bea lowered her eyes, because she's a submissive dog, I suppose, quietly apologized, there should be an again there, and hurried away. After deeply exhaling, finally composing herself from the encounter, because she was all kinds of nerves, I guess, her hand returned to search for the elusive lighter. The girls were holding up the traffic. How? I thought you guys were parked and standing on the side of not in the road, but probably like a sidewalk or something. Why would you be in the middle of the road? Or are you talking about the pedestrian traffic? If so, why don't you get to one side? Come on, they cried, waving her to hurry. No, they're speaking to her. They're not waving at her. Bea ran across the road to join them. Why did you stop like that before crossing? Squeaked Roxy while clinging onto Claire's arm. So what, was the dude invisible or some shit? Yeah, you looked all flustered, said Claire. Bea ignored the comments, turning back for a second look at the stranger, but saw nothing through the heavy traffic. So what, were you, crossing a crosswalk or some shit? You need to say this crap. You need to say it. You can't just assume I know what these girls are doing. That's my main problem with this book right now. Korean, what's wrong? Asked Pia. She saw him, said Soren. I'm assuming I'm pronouncing the names correctly, but I am probably not. His eyes suspicious. Why? How's that possible? Pia replied. Korean finally managed to speak, his eyes in search of the female that had bumped into him. Hi, Asta, follow her. Why? And do what? That's pretty much what I was thinking. Asked Pia, looking bewildered. Observe. Go. Karian's voice became urgent. Do not lose her. Without further question, Pia and Astra rushed over to join the humans. I'm not going to describe what these guys look like or really talk about them or anything. They're just like, here's their names now, and they go. They're whatever you want to think they look like. Enjoy. Why did she only see you? If she has the gift, wouldn't she have seen us all? Soren asked. She has more than a gift, Soren. Karayan replied, his eyes focused on Pi and Astra as they hovered outside the pub, beside Bea and Liza unseen. How would they know who they are? Seeing these girls as names for the readers? To help clarify who they're next to. I mean, you could just... This would be the opportune time to describe what these two girls look like. I mean, granted, you might know her name is Bea because the other girls shouted it. If you're switching perspectives and they don't know what people's names are in the narration, you shouldn't say what their names are. That's just sense. I mean, you might have done that to help the reader along, but as the reader, we know who you're talking about even though you switched perspectives. Soren squinted across the road to get a better look at the female human. Pia and Asta followed Bea and Isa through the doors, still invisible to all. After Bea and Isa greeted Leanne with hugs, cards, and presents, they found a reasonably quiet spot by the side of the bar near the entrance of the pub. So wait, now we're switching back to her perspective. Are we trying to pick one character for a third-person perspective, or are you trying for an omni-person perspective as third person? Because the switching back and forth is starting to be confusing. Bea could feel Liza's eyes on her. Stop worrying. All is good. He isn't here. I'm totally relaxed. She noticed the relief on her friend's face and smiled. Wait, is Bea saying this, or I don't know who's saying that there. She noticed the relief on her friend's face and smiled. Right, my round. What's you havin'? Again, people talk like this, so it's okay to have it in dialogue, but it is confusing to the reader to write it like this. 'Cause immediately I tried to put an S in there, or an apostrophe R-E. Asked Lisa, Pimm's, please. I guess that's some kind of beer or something. After a few drinks, Bea felt the button of her jeans digging into her stomach. So drinking beer makes you bloated? I'm not going to argue that because I've never drunk alcohol in my life, so I wouldn't know. And her fingers discreetly relieved the pressure, undoing the button. Uh-huh. That means your zipper would go right down. She discreetly, you can pick a different word than discreetly, pulled the jumper over the little gap that exposed her skin, unconsciously sighing. Great, 5'1" and a size 12. Definitely time to exercise. Oh, big whoop the fucking do. Shut the fuck up, you little stupid piece of shit. I have no time, no patience for weight bullshit. Bullshit is exactly what this is. Don't come crying to me about being fat when you can fit into a size 12. Go fuck yourself. She knew her little bulge was due to late-night snacking, a setback while trying to give up smoking. You just can't win, she thought. I don't care. I don't care. It doesn't matter. The party began to liven up as more people arrived. Without Brandon, Bea was having fun watching Lisa trying to catch the eye of a guy in the crowd. But it wasn't long before Roxy found her hiding place, because she was totally hiding somewhere. Oh, Bea, why are you sitting all alone? Her voice an annoying whine. Much like mine is, except I'm bored as fuck. Choice, thought Bea, but before she could answer, Roxy got comfortable in Lisa's empty seat. Pia and Asta were hovering around Bea's table, listening in on the conversation, because you totally forgot these two weirdos were here. Pia started to stress about the crowded pub. It's hard to remain invisible when humans are treading on your toes. Okay, so you might be invisible, but you're still like a physical form? So people don't notice they're bumping into stuff, but they are stepping on your feet? Okay. Trip them up? I do. Asta grinned before returning her attention back to Bea after hearing her speak. Seriously, Roxy, go. Have some fun. Bea tried her best to be tactful. Other words could have slipped out all too easily. I suppose you want to try and be kind at first and then get pissed later if they're too annoying, but I don't see why you don't join in the party. And again, if you're not really into this shit, why go in the first place? Are you sure? I just didn't want you sitting alone now that Brandon's here. He is. Wouldn't she have noticed when he came in? I'd be kind of worried that he'd show up. So if I was trying to avoid somebody, I'd be paying a lot of attention to when he was there. She replied with a slight smirk. Bea's heart raced. God, no. Her eyes immediately scanned the pubs. Sure enough, there he was in his usual drunken state, greeting everyone loudly. Then wouldn't you have fucking noticed him being there? Why does it take her mentioning it for you to realize? Pia and Asta's eyes followed Bea's with interest, for some reason. Bea continued to try and get rid of Roxy. It's okay, Roxy, honestly, go. She knew that with Roxy by her side, Claire would soon follow, which meant it would only be a matter of time before the pair gained Brandon's unwanted attention with some silliness. Okay, then leave the party. You've been there, you saw the birthday person. Yay! Walk home. Get a taxicab, I don't know, but be anywhere else but there now that he's there. Just leave. Roxy patted her hand. You're so strong. You also sound condescending as fuck. Bea forced a smile, ignoring the sarcastic tone. Ah, so you were being a dick. But her mood fell dramatically. As Roxy left, Bea's eyes met Brandon's, and she felt very alone. She shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Damn it, where is Lisa? She did another quick scan of the pub, but Lisa was nowhere in sight. Okay, so get up, join your friends at the bar or some shit, join some random people you don't know, or leave. That's a good choice. What was that all about? Pia turned to Asta. Humanex. Astra's eyes drifted over Brandon. How do you know that? Pia asked. Too much time spent around this kind. Right, it's time I took off my glamour and introduced myself. No, Asta. Pia tried to stop her, but it was too late. Asta strolled off into the ladies and returned quick as a flash, visible. She then proceeded to the bar and brought 2 drinks. The barman drooled. What? The barman drooled? She was used to human men behaving this way in her presence, and gave him her most charming smile. So he literally drooled or figuratively drooled? Because if he's standing there drooling, I don't think customers are going to buy anything. She loved to play, and watching the opposite sex melt right before her eyes was one of her favorite games. irresistible, isn't it, sister? Pia laughed from across the room. Though no one heard or saw her, she was still using glamour. No shit, Sherlock. Pia and Asta being sisters. Okay, so now we have the genders of both of them. Thanks for telling us, 3 pages later. Looked so alike that they would often play tricks on unsuspecting men, swapping roles for fun. Both had the deepest midnight blue eyes, framed with long, thick black hair that enhanced their tall, slim physiques. Asta approached Bea. "Excuse me, do you mind if I sit here?" She pointed to the vacant chair. Bea felt relieved someone other than Roxy offered to keep the seat occupied. "No, help yourself." "Thanks." Asta got comfortable and leant towards Bea. "I just had to escape that guy at the bar." She tilted her head in his direction. Bea looked over and saw the barman still melting, and laughed. Asta placed her hand over her mouth and yawned. "I am so bored with that kind of attention from men. I hope you don't mind. I used the excuse that I was getting you a drink to plan my escape. You're the only person I noticed through the crowd that was alone." Astra pulled a face. "Sorry," quickly passing Bea the drink. No, thank you. Pims?" Bella stated, surprised that the woman had guessed her drink correctly. "I have good eyesight." Asta laughed. Her eyes gestured to the glass. "I noticed the fruit." "Oh, of course." It made sense to Bella. For some reason, I guess. I mean, it depends on how close you are sitting to the bar, or if you're just, in some seats, away from it. So, wait. Okay, let me just read this so I can make a comment about this. Pia, still hovering, smiled at her sister. "Oh, you are good." Asta raised her glass. "Cheers, I'm Asta." Their glasses clinked. So she asked her if she wanted the drink, and then Bea said no, she didn't. But now that she is going to drink the drink, for whatever reason. "I'm Bea. How do you know Leanne?" "Oh, my sister knows her. I tagged along. You know how it is. I feel rather like a spare part." Astra replied. "Yes, I was feeling." Bea's attention drifted, drawn by Brandon's impending arrival. "Yay, the jackass makes his debut!" "Are you all right?" asked Asta. Bea forced a smile. "I'm fine." She noticed Astra's stare drift to the man now standing in front of them. "Bea," Brandon slurred, looking surprised at seeing her. He hadn't changed at all in the last 6 months. Same stocky build, same short brown hair, and not surprisingly, still reeking of drink. Bea had to turn her face away. "Bea, please don't ignore me." He bent down closer, meeting her face. "It's been a long time, babe." "Not long enough," thought Bea. Asta introduced herself. "Hi, I'm Asta." Brandon started to drool. All over Bea's lap, apparently. While Brandon was conveniently distracted, Bea grabbed her coat and escaped through the nearby doors. Pia quickly followed, knocking a man to the floor as she pushed him out of the way. "That's douche of you." Everyone in the pub laughed, not able to see invisible Pia, and blamed his fall on drink. Karian had said to follow Bea, and she was not about to lose sight of her. Asta changed out of glamour, becoming visible. What? Asta changed out of glamour, becoming visible in front of Brandon. He blinked and stepped back. What the? He turned to Bea, but she'd gone, and Asta slipped off to find Pia. Weren't they already in glamour when invisible? So how does she... Okay, so that would be switching out of glamour, so that she is visible by normal people. In which case, do they mean that to charm men is a glamour? Or that she... But it says becoming visible in front of Brandon, which means that would imply she somehow went invisible again right in front of him and then magically became visible again. You need to rewrite that sentence, that whole thing, so it makes more sense about what's going on. because I'm fucking confused, and the way you have it written, it doesn't make sense. Because they were invisible, which is a glamour. She shrunk that off in the girls' room and came back out, meaning everybody could see her. She then went and charmed the bartender. I'm assuming this is a natural skill, but I'm guessing it's not. She has to actually, force her will on people in order for this thing to work. Got the drinks, then went over and sat with B, and hung out with her for a minute or two, in which B wasn't going to drink, but then suddenly she is drinking, I guess. Because, you totally drink something a stranger gave you at a bar. That's safe and makes common sense. Makes perfect sense. And then douchebag McGee comes over and starts shit. And then the second she introduces herself, he gets all hot and bothered and starts to drool, I'm assuming all over B's lap. Then B flees, but then somehow while B was fleeing, What's-Her-Face goes invisible again, but then reappears in front of Brandon. Yeah, that's logic. Brandon shook his head, and realizing that B must have left, had ran outside in search for her. Realizing she must have left, ran outside. Yeah, you could just drop the "and" there, because that would still be a coherent sentence. I don't know about grammatically correct, because again, my grammar sucks, but you can understand that sentence. Why are you running away? B, fuck's sake, hold on. He yelled at the top of his voice. Leave me alone, Brandon, she yelled back. B, I only want to talk with ya, darling. Don't walk away from me. Come on, babe. She heard him running up behind her and stopped to face him. You've been drinking. I'm tired. Go back to the party. It's your sister's birthday, for God's sake. Just this once, think of someone other than yourself. You can be so cold. Yeah, know that? Fucking cold. You guys have been broke up for 6 months. You're a dickbag. Go away. B noticed passers-by turn their heads at his unmistakable stagger. I would think at this point he might be yelling at the top of his lungs. Otherwise, I don't think people walking by would give a shit. They'd be like, oh, drunk dude, avoid. Their 6 months apart hadn't changed his odious charm. Didn't you just copy-paste that he hadn't changed? Yeah, you did. Pick some different words. She knew this side of him all too well. There would be no reasoning when he was intoxicated on God knows what. And she turned away. B, fuck's sake, I didn't mean it. I am a bit pissed. As in angry or drunk. Because in England, the term pissed means you're wasted. He started, jogging to catch up with her. Because she turned away and walked some, I guess, even though she just turned away from him. But invisible Pia stuck her foot out, and he tripped, stumbling to the floor. On hearing a thud, B spun around and saw Brandon sprawling out over the pavement. Typical, she thought. Are you all right? A delectably smooth voice asked, making her jump. B turned and saw that a familiar pair of striking blue eyes we need were in that sentence, staring back at her. It was the stranger she'd bumped into earlier. Her stomach fluttered at his closeness again. Get away from her, Brandon yelled, struggling up from the floor. Do you want me to stay? The stranger's voice remained silkily calm, his eyes sincere in the asking. She didn't have the time to reply. Brandon swayed beside her. Fuck off, mate. I know your game. Brandon, don't do this. Please, just go back to the party. B pleaded, wanting to avoid further commotion. But it was too late. Brandon stepped up to the stranger and poked him hard in the chest with a stubby index finger. Yeah, fucking looking for trouble, mate. The stranger didn't reply. B hid her face in her hands. Astra and Pi stood either side of Brandon. Soren joined them, all invisible. Why has Karian taken his glamour off? Asked Pia. Who cares? I guess it would be confusing if you're actually thinking about it, but at this point, I'm really not, because we haven't we've talked about it, but we haven't really focused on this Karen guy having anything other than, hey, this woman saw me, so instead of me following her, I'm going to make my subordinates follow her. And so I'm just kind of like, yeah. And they're like, oh, yeah, the dude can see him. Yeah, that's right, the dude can't see him. He shouldn't be able to do that. Must not have the glamour on. Okay, moving on. Duh, it would look rather strange. Be talking to herself, don't you think? Replied Asta, rolling her eyes. Well, yeah, but he's also fucking drunk, so... Now that'd be funny, Pia replied, quickly followed by a big grin. How? That it looks like she's crazy? Brandon, please, go. Bea turned to the stranger. I think it's best that you go too. The tone of her voice changed between the two. Ya hear that? Fuck off, ya mug, Brandon warned, pointing his finger in the stranger's face. Pia was about to retaliate on Karian's behalf, but Asta grabbed her arm just in time and pulled her away. Karian's eyes remained fixed on Bea. His manner is rather unsavory. That's one way to put it, thought Bea, though taken aback by the stranger's unperturbed attitude. He treated Brandon with the same contempt as an annoying fly. Fucking what? Brandon pushed the stranger with all his strength, but he hardly moved. Please, go home. Karian's eyes said more than his words, and she found it hard to pull away from his mesmerizing stare. Brandon suddenly yanked her arm, pulling her away from the stranger. When did he leave this guy's face and turn back to her and walked back to her and whatever? Don't fucking listen to this cunt. He's polishing his newly founded bullocks. What? Whatever. I don't care. Bea couldn't believe Brandon's foul mouth. Is bullocks really that bad of a word? And shook her head in disgust, pulling her arm from his drunken grip. This ends now. Do you hear me? Enough is enough, Brandon. I'm gone. She gave the stranger a quick, mimed thank you, and walked away. Brandon cried out to her as she turned the corner, but she refused to look back. This guy's gonna get his ass kicked, by the way. The two men now eyed each other. I'll have you later, mate, Brandon spoke through gritted teeth, and saliva foamed from his mouth, trickling down a section of his lip. Why? How does that happen? Why wait until later, mate? Karian jeered, taking a step closer until he stood directly in front of him, blocking his path. Brandon threw a punch at Karian's face, but he moved quickly, avoiding the blow. The momentum from the missed attack almost forced Brandon to the floor, but he quickly straightened himself back up. Oh, you want to play? Let's fucking play, come on. You're the one hitting the dude. Karian smiled as the frothing mass came towards him. Brandon's advance stopped abruptly when Karian punched him, hard, on the temple. Dazed, his legs wobbled, but somehow he managed to remain standing. I'm still waiting, Karian taunted, his composure, as it was before, calm and controlled. Brandon refocused and threw another punch. Again, Karian moved unbelievably fast, avoided it, and laughed. Yeah, fucking funny, isn't it, you wanker? Suddenly lots of laughter erupted around them. Brandon spun round, eyes searching until a punch arrived to his jaw, knocking him to the ground, where he lashed out into empty space. Karian used his glamour and rematerialized in front of him. Wait, what? So they're naturally invisible, and they have to use a glamour to become visible? Is that what you're trying to say? Because I'm pretty sure earlier you said, how could she see them when they're using a glamour to be invisible? You need to clarify this better. Brandon shook his head, eyes wide in disbelief. Soren advanced, but Karian ordered him to stop. No, he's had enough. Pia mischievously jumped in, explaining she'd overheard in the pub that Brandon had previously hit the female human. Where did she happen to hear that from? Did she just make this up, since she's doing it mischievously? I mean, it's a possibility, but unless he's boasting about it or she happened to overhear. I mean, what would have been nice is when Roxy was talking to her, maybe they had said something like, "Are you sure? Because he hit you that one time," or some shit, even though it doesn't seem anybody really cares about her safety or the fact that this guy supposedly hit her. At least I'm assuming this isn't just made up bullshit that this one character is saying. You need to explain more. You can't just randomly introduce things for the sake of, hey, this guy's a jerkwad. Let me show you how this guy's more of a jerkwad by having characters say he did stuff that we haven't had any confirmation that he actually did this stuff. From that moment, everything changed. Karian's fist connected with Brandon's thighs, a deliberate move to immobilize him. Brandon, crippled from the excruciating blow, mumbled obscenities. Karian nodded over to Soren, who grabbed Brandon by his neck, lifting him completely off the ground. Soren grinned as he dangled him like a limp doll in front of his lord. Karian being his lord, or lord being like God, or Satan, or some shit. They all knew Soren hated humans, ever since they tried hunting him down centuries ago, and no doubt the grudge would last a couple more. Thanks for, just telling us about his backstory instead of exploring it through his actions as the book progresses. You ever hear about show, don't tell? You're telling us a lot of crap. You struck her? Karian asked, his face filled with rage and disgust before releasing a clenched fist, full force, into Brandon's stomach. So says one person, which might be true, it might not be true. We have had nothing to confirm that this is true or not. If he did strike her, this would feel great right now. But going out of their way to probably clearly kill this guy, these would not be okay people that I want the main character to be romantically interested in, since this is supposed to be a romance story. It's called She is Bad at Picking Boyfriends, and he's a crazy supernatural motherfucker that she doesn't need to be around and should be saved from, which, that would actually be cool. She gets saved by the antagonist, who's totally into her, and she's like, well, yeah, he's hot, but he's crazy as shit, and I don't need to be near him, so I should go on this epic awesome quest of awesome and kick his ass. That would be something unexpected. That would be interesting. Somebody write that book, please. Somebody take this plot bunny and write that. I will read it on the show, if you write it. You struck her? Karian asked, his face full with rage and disgust, before releasing a clenched fist, full force, into Brandon's stomach. Under such circumstances, you deserve no gentlemanly conduct. What's that supposed to mean? This is where you say no gentlemanly end, or mercy. I don't understand why you thought to use a word such as conduct. Never strike a woman. I'm sorry, but if I was a dude and some crazy woman was coming at me with like a knife or some shit, yeah, I'd fucking hit her. I'd hit her until she probably stopped moving, because she's trying to hurt me. I would never go out of my way to hurt somebody undeservingly. I would really never go out of my way to hurt anybody, with the exception of self-defense. He finished Brandon off. Yeah, he killed the dude. With several swift movements of his hand, which connected with Brandon's neck and head, leaving him lying flat out on the pavement. Blood streamed down his face, and started to form a red puddle on the ground. Would you like me to finish him off, my lord? Asked Soren. Pick different words, don't copy-paste. He finished Brandon off with several swift movements, which would imply he killed the dude. But then we have Soren here saying, because she's like, oh wait, If I have the main love interest kill a dude, people won't like that. Well, no shit they won't like that, because that's what antagonists do, not good guys. Karian paused and thought. Tempting, but no. We don't want to attract any further attention. Because this wouldn't attract attention. Beating a guy to the point where he's on the ground bleeding. Probably out. Soren nodded and, once instructed, dragged Brandon's body into a nearby alley. Because they're not going to notice the trail of blood in which clearly someone dragged this half-dead man to an alleyway. Astra stared at Karian while whispering thoughts in Pia's ear. A little slap is one thing, but why would our Lord lose his temper with someone so detached from him? A human? It's out of character. Well, yeah. Did you really hear someone say he hit her? Pia gulped, as she always did when her sister caught her out on a lie. So we did lie. Our protagonist, my friends. 'Cause I was going to say, I'm like, if somebody actually said that, that's still hearsay, and we don't have any confirmation on that. I didn't know he was going to beat him to a pulp. Astra rolled her eyes. So now I'm confused, because saying finished him would imply you murdered the dude. But apparently he is not dead yet, but he probably will be soon.